Well, I think from the point of view of all of us, it would have been really, really significant a decade ago.
Right.
When Osama bin Laden was in fact killed. Al-Qaeda as a global force is a spent force. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have local, as you might call it, franchises that have some influence, say in Yemen, say in North Africa. But the idea of a global terror campaign from these folks, they pretty much have faded. Indeed, they had been replaced by other groups, such as the Islamic State, who have been much more significant in recent years. That said, in terms of our lives, for those of us who remember all the way back to 9/11, yeah, it's a significant moment because it sort of, as it were, closes the book on the top leadership of al-Qaeda. Al-Zawahiri was very important as the ideological force. He's the guy that gave the rationale for all their operations, whereas bin Laden was the more charismatic figure. But again, to be honest with you, once bin Laden, and indeed even for a few years before bin Laden was killed, al-Qaeda just simply didn't have the resonance that it carried in the first years of the 21st century.
However, is there a significance that this has taken place in Kabul? Because, of course, the US was warned that pulling their troops out of Afghanistan may lead yet again to a safe haven for terrorists. It seems that that's been proved right.
Well, I think it's significant from the standpoint of how we, consider the Taliban, because the Taliban, having taken power last August, having indeed had the experience more than 20 years ago that they were kicked out of power in part because they sheltered al-Qaeda. Yeah. They went ahead and let al-Zawahiri come in. But again, to be honest with you, I think the Republicans in the states will try to make political capital about it. But I don't think many Americans will really actually care that much about it. The fact is, the real betrayal in Afghanistan was the betrayal of the Afghan people when the Americans left so quickly.
Although people will be surprised that, the whole invasion into Afghanistan was to eradicate al-Qaeda. And here they are 20 years later, swarming around in Kabul. A lot of people, as you say, will see that as a damning indictment of that withdrawal last year.
Yeah, well, to give you a quick snapshot of how many people were involved in that betrayal of Afghanistan, as it were, by 2003, the idea that we were in Afghanistan to contain al-Qaeda was gone. The fact is that Osama bin Laden was not in Afghanistan. He was then in Pakistan, and the U.S. administration, then a Republican administration, was more concerned about invading Iraq to get rid of Saddam Hussein. So this has been a long-term thing. I don't think, again, I think the Americans or the Biden administration will say we're trying to control terrorism with what they call over-the-horizon strikes. Fact is that Afghanistan was abandoned politically, economically, and socially by the U.S. and by others several months ago.